this was on the original document we shared.
The original really long sprawling document. Okay. All right, so we're going to have them introduce themselves.
Right, so I can lay down the ground rules first. And then you're going to start, right?
Sure, yeah.
I'll put the timer for 2 minutes, and then we can just gauge it in 30 seconds just to monitor everything. We have a good one.
Sure.
Really? Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here this afternoon in person or virtually. My name is Charlie Vincent, and I'm the Executive Director of Spur Impact. Our nonprofit is in the business of inspiring professionals and leaders to meet and take a more active role as volunteers and leaders of nonprofits and other organizations serving our great state. We do this through convening events like this, as well as our annual MillSummit Leadership Conference coming up next week, right here on August 5th. More information about Spur Impact and the MillSummit are online and on the back of your programs. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to our State of Entrepreneurship Forum. Thank you to our panelists who are able to join us here today in person. You'll be hearing their viewpoints on entrepreneurship over the course of today. The questions that will be asked of them this afternoon are derived from more than 24 that were submitted by the attendees who registered today. I know a few are still coming in person, and a lot are watching virtually right now. So thank you to everyone who's watching here in the live audience, during the live stream, or watching the replay. Events like this are important to the political discourse and in making informed decisions. As part of the live stream, we have an ASL interpreter, and thanks to the teams at Latin American Community Center who will be helping to translate today's forum into Spanish. Thank you to Spur Impact's partners who are helping to support today's event, including the Latin American Community Center, King Creative, Johnson Commercial Real Estate, and Chancery Market. Thank you also to the press covering today's event, including Spotlight Delaware, Delaware Business Times, WDEL, and Technically. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our two moderators for today, Nicole Lester and Allison Taylor Levine. Nicole is one of Spur Impact's board members and a MillSummit executive co-chair this year, and Allison is the CEO and publisher of Spotlight Delaware. They'll be leading today's discussion along with the panelists. Once again, thank you for joining us today and for this forum on entrepreneurship, and I will turn it over, and you won't see me again until the end. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie, and thank you all for coming on this very hot and humid afternoon on a July Tuesday. We really welcome you panelists to this conversation. If you guys recall, last year we had somewhat of a heated discussion between the governor and candidates, and I'm pleased to see that Governor Myers here to kind of back up some of the fun and exciting.
Came back for more.
Payback for more. He came back for more, which is to be expected for such a fearless leader. So I want to welcome our panelists, and I will let you guys go down. We'll start from Gemini. Just a short introduction of who you are, what section you work with, and what your thoughts are for being here in the state of Delaware.
Hi, my name is Gemini Cornish. I'm the Sussex County Regional Business Manager with the Delaware Division of Small Business. I'm excited to be here to answer questions and give you guys feedback on economic development and businesses and how I can help entrepreneurs.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Jeff Berman. I'm Economic Development Director for Newcastle County under County Executive Marcus Henry. So my territory is mostly unincorporated Newcastle. So think out in the suburbs and some of our efforts there regarding small business. Looking forward to addressing today and looking forward to seeing you all after the event for in-person conversations.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anastasia Jackson. I'm the Kent County Regional Business Manager with the Delaware Division of Small Business. I am a Delaware native, and my job today and my hopes is to make sure you stop in Kent County and not just drive through. A lot of times people just use this as a drive-through county, but stop in and stay a while, and I look forward to talking with you.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Meyer. Last time I was here at a Spur Impact event, my job, I pretty much had two jobs. The first was to keep the poop out of your basement, keep your sewer fees low, make sure your largest sewer system in Delaware was working. The other was answer your 911 calls quickly. Make sure police, paramedics, fire are well-trained, come to your door quickly, high quality. We did all right there. And so since then I got a promotion, or if you ask Marcus Henry, maybe a demotion to the position of governor of the state of Delaware. It's honestly an honor to serve as the 76th governor of the state of Delaware. I'm 6 months in. I think the first, if not the first governor in a while who started a couple companies, an e-commerce company and a footwear company. I'm a strong believer in the power of entrepreneurship, not just the economic power, but the cultural and community power of entrepreneurship. I think if we can be at a place where innovation and entrepreneurship happens, that's going to benefit Delawareans for generations to come. So, and thank you, Nicole and Allison, for your leadership in the community and with Spur Impact.
It's our pleasure. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to get things started. Allison's going to take the lead with the first question. So let's get right to it.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us here today. And thank you to our panelists for being here. I want to start with our governor. Governor, can you tell us a little bit about your vision for what Delaware looks like? What does the state of entrepreneurship in Delaware look like now? And where would you like it to go? Where do you want it to be?
Thank you, Allison. You know, a lot of these panels I do, Charlie, they give me the questions and we prepare the answers beforehand. The problem is when you get Spotlight Delaware here, they don't give you anything.
No, we don't.
And so you come in totally.
At least you didn't get Carl Baker, sir.
No Carl Baker, for better or for worse. But Allison, I don't know, you were pretty tough back in your day. Seriously, I don't know how many of you know Allison. She has, at a time when local journalism is getting squeezed, and it's just hard. When I go and meet with governors of small states, and certainly as a county executive, like press conferences where no one shows up, there's just a dearth of local media. Everyone's going to social media. Allison has managed to thread a needle and build something that very quickly has become a very strong presence and an important piece in the fabric of our local democracy here. So Allison, thanks for that. In terms of innovation and entrepreneurship here, we have some extraordinary assets. I should add that in 2011, I'm a Delawarean who spent a year as a diplomat in Iraq. I wasn't in the military, but I was embedded with the U.S. Army for 12 months in Iraq. I came back home and worked for a short time as a special advisor to Governor Jack Markell on entrepreneurship. And at the time, they had a number of entrepreneurship competitions. I'm trying to remember the names of them. There was the Coin Loft was the main place in Wilmington over on 9th Street. It was a little house where all entrepreneurs went through. And the same companies, they'd have all these competitions to win venture money. And they'd have 2 or 3 companies, entrepreneurs pitching. And it was the same companies every time. So you'd see the same people over. I can't tell you, Brian Tracy, if you know Brian Tracy, had a predecessor of Smart Brewed Foods called Elkatron that I think I saw him present about 12 times because it was the same companies over and over again. We are now in a much better position. This is nearly 15 years later than we were now. Bill Provine, who I don't know where he is these days, but oh, you're there. Bill Provine with the Delaware Innovation Space has really put together something extraordinary, combining the power of the University of Delaware, the DuPont Company, and the state of Delaware. That's basically an incubator for the leading chemistry technologies of tomorrow. It's really the sweet spot of where Delaware's been for over a century with the DuPont heritage, but thinking about what's the next generation of companies. There are other assets at the Horn Center for Entrepreneurship, started about 10 years ago with Charlie Horn and under Dan Freeman's leadership. And that's spinning off companies, probably the largest of which is Carver Ties, right? But many others. And so there are opportunities. We have to make sure those opportunities are spread across our state. So we look to Georgetown, to Dover, to Smyrna. If there's an innovator with an idea, people at the beach, making sure that there are no impediments or barriers to them doing it. But it's not just geographic. There are also gender barriers, ethnic barriers. It's often said that entrepreneurs of color don't often have that rich uncle, right? Who when maybe they can win a competition or two, get that initial capital, but invariably in any company's history, you hit that point where you struggle a little bit, where making payroll is tough, making sure, and I think government has an important role, making sure the resources are there to backstop, to say, hey, if you have a good idea, we're going to come in. It's one of the big reasons why CJ Bale at the Division of Small Business with Anastasia and Gemini's help have launched the Edge 2.0. My predecessor, Governor Carney, did a great job creating the Edge grant program, where startups and small businesses across our state can apply for seed funding, but that's just one-time funding. We're thinking now about how do we build a community, an ecosystem of support in every county, in every community across this state. So if you have an innovative idea in Delaware, you can start it and grow it here. You'll have access to capital. You'll have access to customers. You'll have access to legal and accounting support. If you need to find a facility and grow that facility, you can have the supports you need.
And Governor Meyer, I'm so sorry, I forgot to lay down the ground rules so far as the timing of our discussion, just so we can make room for other people to opine in on the question as well. So we do want to try to contain within 2 minutes, 3 minute parameters, just to let you know, and that was completely on me. I didn't lay down those ground rules, so I just want to apologize. But just to interject, but please carry on, and then after we'll let Allison ask the rest of our panelists to opine as well.
Understood. So my last 3 seconds, I'll say that's what we're doing for entrepreneurship in Delaware.
I love it. Go ahead.
Oh.
You ready?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I've always, I do a lot of advising, right, for small businesses. And a lot of the feedback that we get often is, why aren't I getting any capital, right? Why don't I get any resources? What's wrong with my business, with my vision, with what I'm doing? And often the feedback that they get when they ask, for responses is, oh, you're outside of the scope, right? This is not where we're going. This is in the wrong direction. So the question is, what types of companies are the priorities for the state of Delaware and also the counties within the state of Delaware? And we can start with Gemini, and if you don't mind, everyone just being able to respond back, because it's a major concern. And it's a topic that came up on our panel discussion last year as well.
Right, that's a great question. Thank you. With being in Sussex County, I don't think there is no priority. I think we have to treat each sector and each business different and very unique, but there's no priority. Whether you're coming in and open up a bakery, a daycare, or a hair salon, at the Division of Small Business, you get treated the same attention. We have resource partners that can help, whether you're looking for a business plan, whether you're looking to access capital, in between. Thank you.
Mr. Berman?
Yeah. Gemini, that was a great answer. I'd like to echo that as well. These opportunities, this arena of entrepreneurship is not an easy path to take. These are people who are unusual in that they leave corporate life for easier callings for maybe arguably the hardest thing that you can do, which is to start and grow a business. So for the folks who choose that path, regardless of what vertical that happens to be, I think government's role, county government, state government's role, is to be supportive of that business in every way that we can think of. So if any business comes and knocks on my door, they'll be supported in every way that we can.
I'd like to echo exactly what Gemini and Jeff said. And we are in a unique position with state government to be able to connect certain sectors with like businesses, because the community in which you serve in makes more sense for you to thrive in. So if you are in the hospitality industry, we're going to connect you with the Delaware Restaurant Association, because that's a community of support that's going to help you in different areas that the STEM category can't help you in. We just want to make sure it makes sense, but also making sure that everybody understands that we're with you throughout the journey, not just when you first make the initial call to us. You continuously follow up with us. We make sure that you get connected with the network that you need to be in, so that way your business can thrive while you're here in the state of Delaware and stay here in Delaware.
Governor?
Yeah, I'm biased towards industries that create jobs and create wealth in our state. And if that's your industry, then we want you starting and growing company. I also should mention Noah from Delaware Prosperity Partnership is here. So if you need cash money, talk to Noah.
Thank you. It's refreshing to hear, because although ideally we want to say that, our systems support all companies, but if that's the case, then why aren't all companies getting funding, right? So it's nice to hear, Governor, that you say, well, is your business going to generate jobs, right? Is your business going to generate revenue and resources? I think that's a good, actionable item that we can allow small businesses and entrepreneurs to take away from, where it's like, okay, this is your vision and it's beautiful, but how are you generating jobs for our country, for our state, and for our county? So I appreciate that.
I didn't use my whole 2 minutes, so can I have
You
30
didn't? No,
seconds?
you actually, sir, you have 1 minute and 34 seconds.
I don't think I'll
left.
use that much, but just my dad, and we can debate this. My dad says there's no charity anywhere. Nobody actually gives charity. When someone gives something, they're looking for something in return. And it's something I used a lot when I started my small business. When someone wanted to write me a check, or kids here, when someone wanted to Apple Pay me, they wanted something in return. When I started a sandal company, they wanted a pair of sandals in return. If they were an investor, they wanted shares in my company, or they wanted some security interest in the debt. So it's important and that's as true as government as anything. And the Noah will tell you the number one thing we're looking for is jobs. So if you come to me and say you're going to start a business and you're going to be rich and it's going to be you and you alone, but you're not going to hire anyone, government's probably less likely to help you out. Whereas if you come and you have a serious plan that you can execute on to create 5, 10, 50 jobs, then it's like, okay, there's opportunity here for our entire community and something we probably want to make an investment in.
Yeah, I love that. I think providing small businesses and entrepreneur, the leaders, with actionable, tangible items that they can actually take home and do their homework is beneficial for them. So I appreciate that response. Following in that same notion, that same topic of economic resources, and not just really economic, but just resources in general. We mentioned earlier, or rather Governor mentioned earlier, the EDGE 2.0. We also mentioned the Delaware Prosperity Partnership. We mentioned incubator programs and the like. What form of transparency is provided to entities that may apply for these different resources and get rejected? That question came, maybe it was about 20 questions that came along the lines of transparency. I got rejected. I was on the final round. What happened? What did I do wrong? Is there any accountability and transparency that you guys can provide for small businesses and entrepreneurs when they do get rejected for these resources, or maybe set aside or told to come back again later?
You want me to take that?
Yes, please.
Specifically, when it involves the EDGE grant, we do have feedback that we provide to business owners that didn't make it the first round. It is a competitive grant, so this is an opportunity for you to come back, beef up your proposal. And Gemini, myself, and Joe Zolkowski, who is the Wilmington Regional Business Manager, we work with those businesses throughout that time frame. Also looking at your business plan and making sure this is sustainable. Like the governor mentioned, is it creating jobs? And is it one of the priority industries that he's looking to give extra points for this round? That's another great bonus. So we look at that, and also utilizing the tools that we have available. We have Size Up Delaware. That's a free business analytics tool that's on our website. A lot of people don't take advantage of that, but Gemini and myself and Joe, we work through that, utilizing that tool with business owners as well. So being able to reach out to your business manager, one of us, and getting the feedback and applying that feedback, and also continuously following up is so important, as well as utilizing the resource partners that we have. We have the Small Business Development Center. We have SCORE. Nicole and I, we have helped business owners together in her role with SCORE, and that's pretty much what we do.
Thank you. Mr. Berman, did you want to opine?
Sure. My answer is going to be on a slightly smaller scale than the EDGE grant competition, although I had a ringside seat to that process recently, and it was really fantastic. I think of the Black Chambers pitch competition we recently held. I think it was in March. In addition to the Swim with the Sharks pitch competition coming up at the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce. For those of you interested, go ahead and look that up. It might not be too late to put your application in. And those are very, I'd say, intimate events. And by intimate in that context, I mean me along with my judges in a room making the decision in front of everyone and handling the feedback process personally, exchanging business cards afterwards where we have the opportunity to do so. And in one specific case that comes to mind, putting a business owner perhaps in front of a different area of our county government that could be more helpful than the pitch process could have been for them that evening. So it's personal in that regard at the county level, and I think it's a pretty good avenue to provide the feedback and to give people the help that they need.
Thank you.
I want to catch this one before the governor has to leave. It sounds like, Governor, you have some pretty specific priorities for what you think we should be emphasizing in terms of entrepreneurship. And I'm hearing broader interest from the counties, and I'm wondering how the counties and the state work together to maximize the resources that are available to help support entrepreneurship.
Listen, there's a lot of government in this state for 1 million people. If you go to Philadelphia, they have, I should know, 1.6, 1.7 million people, and they have a single government to provide all those services. And in Delaware, which has a little more than half of what Philly has, 1 million people, we have over 50 governments when you count counties, cities, towns, and our state government. So it's incumbent on us to make sure we are working together. Too often, not just in economic development, but in all sorts of regulation and transportation, and even in sewage and environmental regulation, you find local government and state government fighting with each other. And I'm the first county executive ever to be elected governor, so I have the unique perspective that I've kind of seen it from both sides. Where Jeff works now and where he sits, I was sitting 6 months ago, 6.5 months ago. So and sat there for 8 years. So it's really important that our priorities be aligned, because when they are, you'll see job growth and opportunity flourish in every county. It's important to mention it's not just a matter of making sure our priorities and investments with respect to entrepreneurship and innovation and EDGE grants and DPP are aligned. It also has a lot to do with regulation. If there's a laundromat or a restaurant or a childcare facility that wants to expand their footprint, if they're doing great and want to double their square footage, right? That usually is much more of a local government regulatory question than it is anything that I, as governor, or even DelDOT or DenRec deal with. And so it's really important that we all get on the same page in terms of expedited permitting and technological government to make sure, hey, for small businesses, we shouldn't be any friction. Government should not be standing in the way of job creation. It's something we're working on local governments to do.
So I want to zoom out a little bit and start with the governor, but then I want to ask the rest of you also about the changes at the federal administration. How are those trickling down to affect small businesses and entrepreneurship in Delaware? And I want to start with Matt, please. Excuse me, Governor, please. Sorry.
It's all right. We've known each other a while, Allison. Listen, I think the biggest government policy that we've seen federal government policy last 6 months that would impact small business is probably the T word. The president calls it tariffs. I call it a tax. It's basically a sales tax on the American people. In Delaware, I don't know how many fans there are of sales taxes. I don't see too many. What the federal government's trying to do is there is frustration, I think, broad-based across our country that we don't make stuff the way we used to in this country. And so the way the federal government is trying to address it is by taxing and putting barriers on those products from outside of our country. The problem is I don't think it works. If we're mad that we're not producing and manufacturing, so we start putting 100% tariffs on products coming from Asia, it's not like tomorrow there are going to be factories, manufacturing facilities popping up all over Delaware, all over the region. It just doesn't work like that. You need capital, you need labor, you need technology, you need expertise. And so the problem is it turns into a tax on our economy. I think what we can do is make investments in our education system, in our workforce training, to say, how do we look at ourselves and look at the economy that we want to be and make sure we're making those investments here today, not playing with tax policy because we as Americans cannot compete in certain industries, but saying, let's get smarter. Let's make the smart investments. Let's welcome in experts from around the world to get their expertise here, because so many of them want to come here, make those investments in place like Delaware Innovation Space, so that the chemical technologies, the scientific, the biopharmaceutical technologies of tomorrow are being invented and created here.
And I want to start with Jeff, and then I want to narrow the question for Anastasia and Gemini. What is the county doing, or is the county doing anything? Are you adapting in any ways? Are you changing the types of support that you're offering, the way you're responding to entrepreneurship and requests for support in response to the changes coming from the federal administration?
Sure. Thanks, Allison. Newcastle, I think of Newcastle County as a land use shop. So in addition to sewage and Newcastle County, the great Newcastle County Police Department, Newcastle County land use policies governed by Uniform Development Code, and our land use department helps shepherd development plans through that process. So whether you're expanding a restaurant or whether you're building a new development from the ground up, that's something that our land use department has a lot of influence over and to a certain extent control. Marcus Henry, County Executive Marcus Henry, from the first day we started talking about what we're going to do here in terms of economic development, really pointed towards our permitting process and the interchange between state, local permits, and how that process is perceived by small, medium, and large business owners. And what opportunities do we have to simplify that process, to make that process cheaper, to make that process more straightforward and predictable? I'm lucky enough to work alongside Dave Culver, General Manager of our Land Use Department. He and myself and Marcus, a couple other stakeholders, even representatives from DENREC and DelDOT and Fire Marshal, are all putting our heads together and putting a plan together so that whether you're opening that restaurant or expanding that restaurant or moving into town for a biopharma manufacturing facility, you're going to be able to see a path to success for that type of investment. So,
Thank you. And thinking about Kent and Sussex County, we have so many small businesses and entrepreneurs who are immigrants, who are Latino. And I'm wondering if you are seeing any impact in your offices, changes in types of requests or changes for different types of support. Are you feeling any fallout from the changes at the federal level?
We really haven't seen much of an impact.
Okay.
But we do have the Office of Supplier Diversity, who handles, all of the certifications for minority, women-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses. And I'd like to just leave it at what the governor has provided.
Got it. Anything different for you, Gemini?
No, I agree with Anastasia. With
Okay.
Governor.
Great.
remarks.
So let's shift to talking about building a culture of entrepreneurship and attracting new and small businesses to Delaware. Governor, why would they come here? And what are you doing? What are you changing to try to attract more of them?
So for the price of doing business here, for the tax structure, there is no location better in the country and maybe the world. We are within a day's drive of at least a quarter and maybe as much of a third of the U.S. economy, one of the largest economies in the world. There are huge benefits to being in this state. When there are regulatory barriers, and I would bet if you talk to nearly any company as it grew, it came across regulatory barriers, whether they're local government, some of the land use stuff Jeff was referring to, whether it's state government stuff in Delaware, that means environment, transportation, or federal government issues, specific regulations around particular industries. Delaware is a place where you literally can just pick up the phone and get in direct contact with your governor, your senator, your congressperson. It's very unusual and an advantage that we joked when I was at the county that, other larger counties across the country, when someone was starting a business, cutting a ribbon, they'd say, how big's the business? How many employees? In Delaware, we don't ask that question. We just show up and it might be 2 employees, but hey, that's a sizable fraction of our workforce in a small state like Delaware. We go, everything matters. And so I think in an environment like that, it's a nurturing environment. It's very easy to develop strong connections to our higher educational institutions, UD, Del State, Del Tech, Wesley, Wilmington University, our private, and there are huge benefits to that. I think it's harder. You get to a big place, you get lost. And I think there's attraction. In certain industries, if you're in legal industry, financial services industry, chemical technologies and scientific, and now in biopharma, you have some of the leading companies in the world that are right here. You go around the world, you say Delaware to people, you're going to find business people who have entities registered here and some of the leading legal expertise. It's very unusual in such a small place to find such an economic powerhouse in certain verticals. My job is to make sure that in each vertical we expand and grow, and then we look at other industries that are industries of the future and we make appropriate investments.
Could you, just to follow up on that, could you talk a little bit about what are some specific things you would like to do through state government in the next couple of years to actually make that better?
So one of them is already Edge 2.0. I think as someone who's been a 2-time entrepreneur, started a couple companies, I think there's a lot of emphasis on financial resources, right? Which makes sense. But to have a successful high growth startup, you need a lot more than financial resources. In a way, financial resources are almost just like the glue, but you need access to talent. By the time my second company, I'd operated 6-7 years, I said, forget about money. Just get me the people. If I have the right people around the table, I'll get the money and we'll solve a lot of problems. So the idea of Edge 2.0 is how do we take entrepreneurs who are here and say, okay, how do we, it's not just about giving you a one-time cash and non-dilutive cash infusion, but how do we surround you with everything you need to be successful? For some, depending on what stage you're at, maybe it's connection to customers, right? Maybe it's connection to labor force. Maybe it's access to ways to be successful or have more efficient regulation. So that's one thing. I have not been secret. If anyone heard my speech at the Chamber of Commerce, to the State Chamber of Commerce at their dinner, I think back in January, February, I spoke about how we've taken a lot of strategic fund dollars and invested to attract companies outside of Delaware to come to Delaware. That's de-emphasized now. What we're trying to do is say, how do we make strategic investments? In North Carolina, they invested in a research triangle 30, 40 years ago that has yielded billions of dollars of economic growth. If you look at the places around the country and world that are successful, they're making strategic investments to say, how do we get the highest growth companies in this industry into our area? And we're working on doing it. You're going to see additional resources available to do things like that.
Thank you. Anastasia, it's something that you and I have talked about before because Building Spotlight also was an entrepreneurial endeavor and continues to be.
Yes.
And one of the big challenges that I learned about was it is the level of risk, right? It is a privilege in some ways to be an entrepreneur. people don't all have a safety net, right?
Yes.
So are there some additional things that the state and the counties can do to reduce those risks? I mean, like the governor's saying, it's just not cash, right? What are some of the additional supports?
I think it all starts with business owners understanding what our position is as liaisons between you and your business and state agencies. Utilizing Gemini, myself, and Joe to help you navigating through that. When you think about the word entrepreneurship, right, that ship is about to leave the dock. And as soon as it leaves the dock, you're out and sailing. You're like, okay, what am I doing as I'm out here at sea? But if you take the resources and tools that we have here in the state of Delaware to help you as you're navigating and you're sailing out there and you're not alone and you're not in it by yourself, you'll be more successful. And one thing I wanted to mention from the last question, because you didn't pass it to me, you gave me a different one. It was in the last 2 weeks in Kent County. I don't know if anybody's been in Central Delaware, but in the last 2 weeks, we had the state fair, NASCAR, and DE Turf had over 3,000 people from out of state in Kent County, in Central Delaware. That is huge for the local economy. That is huge for the hospitality industry. The downtowns, like they were thriving. They were like, Anastasia, what's going on? We're trying to keep the restaurants open longer, because there were people visiting our state from out of state, and they were patronizing the restaurants. They were staying at the hotels, at the state fair. Love the state fair. If you didn't try the pickle pizza, you were missing out. But it warmed my heart, because I'm from Kent County, been there all my life, and to see all of that growth, I'm like, we're doing exactly what Governor Meyer wants us to be doing.
And y'all should feel free to jump in on any question. We're trying to target them to who we think is going to talk. But
If I were here and I were looking to go into business, I go into the fried Oreo business.
Oh yeah,
that sounds like an entrepreneurial.
and I want to open up a dog treat vending machine.
Dog treat vending machine?
Yes, woof woof treats.
Okay, so we had to figure out what comes first, the chicken or the egg, which is always a heated discussion, but we were able to navigate it quite quickly. So Anastasia or Ms. Jackson, you mentioned businesses aligning with the priority industries that the governor has put on the list, right?
Yes.
One of our first questions was, how do leaders, small businesses, and entrepreneurs know that they're in the industry that's a priority? So what are the priority industries for the state of Delaware in the next year, 3 years, 5 years?
Would you like to take that, Gov? I do know entertainment's on the top of that list. The arts, tourism, biopharmaceutical. Gemini, get to the mic.
Yes, Miss Cornish, you've been awkwardly quiet in the corner there. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
You have 3 people from, 2 people from Division of Small Business and Gov. So like everything they're saying it's no need for me to remark what they're saying. So I think they're doing a great job of answering these questions. But I was just helping Anastasia with some of the, especially with Edge 2.0, some of the focus areas that you could get extra points for Edge 2.0, which biopharmaceutical, tourism, entertainment, and it's a few other ones that
Yes.
with Edge that you could gain the extra points for those industries.
And we do encourage everyone watching and in the room to join our webinar next week on August the 6th, shameless plug, and you'll find out more information.
No shame in that plug. I love it. So that brings me to this other question, which is a little sensitive because I know the founders, and I also want to mention that you're right. Giving money or undiluted or diluted funds to any business is really only the glue, right? But if you don't have the right leaders in place, and you're not developing leaders within entrepreneurship, it doesn't really matter how much money you give a company or a business if they don't know how to grow it and scale it, right? So I can understand why there are a lot of different points, so to speak, that you're looking for. But carbon reform and trick robotics, they fall under that bio industry, and they are Delaware companies. They started here, they graduated from UD. But they are no longer really growing in the state of Delaware. So what can the state do and the counties do to help really advance and grow the pipeline for future entrepreneurs? I don't know why they left. It could be any given reason. So we're not going to go down that forest line, right? But is there something that the state and the counties can do to really cultivate leaders, entrepreneurs, and helping them, whether it's starting in the next generation or even the current generation that we have? And we can start with Ms. Cornish.
Okay, great. Our finance director, Jory Moore, always says, we don't want to just hear from businesses when it's a disaster or you're struggling. My favorite part of this position is helping those businesses that come in and their startup, because I can give them those guidance and that firm foundation to help them. Like, we have direct access to our resource partners and our divisions, sister divisions, like Division of Revenue, whether you're open, like I said, open up a daycare, we have that direct access to child licensing and professional regulations. So I think knowing your resources, for one, and having those on speed dial, and don't just contact when you're experiencing an emergency. Reach out when you just have a simple question. Reach out to those resource partners.
I'll split this question in two, on two levels. At the smaller business level, I think a lot of it, as Jem and I mentioned, has to do with programming. So it's not just, do you have a business plan when you started out? It's, do you have a cash flow statement? Do you understand how many days cash you have on hand? Can you make payroll? Should your biggest contract dry up? Are you aware of the resources around you, your chambers and your local interest groups and your local government leaders in terms of reaching out for support in times of need? So that's at the small micro level. At the larger level, which I think is where our question originated, it's become really clear to me through conversations with Delaware Prosperity Partnership and business owners and developers and things like that. Workforce is really key. It's one thing to get a large business to come into town. It's another to keep them. And we've heard directly from these businesses, its workforce availability is critical, even more so than incentives and other types of considerations. So we've seen a lot of programming spring up, successful programming spring up around that, making sure that we're serious, taking that serious. I know BioConnect just graduated their first class of biopharmaceutical techs over at Eastside Charter. We had the pleasure of being there Tuesday. And so we're taking that seriously. We're developing serious programming hand in hand with business leaders, AstraZeneca and Merck specifically. And we're going to really double down on those programs because we know they're key.
Yeah, so we were able to kick off a pilot accelerator program for Main Street businesses about a couple of weeks ago. And what I learned from some of the surveys, the data that came in from those surveys, was businesses that have received funding already, they were like, oh, I wish I had this before I received the funding, because this is some stuff that I could have implemented into my business model once I received the money. And Director Bell is definitely taking heed to a lot of that information that we've gotten from that feedback. Another thing that I look at is during the school year, I go to the high schools. I go to Delaware State University, and I speak to the students in the intro to business classes and the marketing classes, and I see their interest and start to hear about like what the trends are, and also give them information about what I've seen from successful businesses that may have received funding from our office, maybe in the pipeline to get funding, applying for a grant, or SSBCI, which is our State Small Business Credit Initiative, federal funding that we still got. They didn't take that from us. And also connecting with Polytech, Adult Education Center, and also Del Tech, looking at the pathways. I'm trying to stay within my 2 minutes, but looking at the pathways and being intentional about having those conversations with the instructors, not just the students, to make sure that they are well informed on what the requirements, what the government is looking for when it comes to funding and supports here in our state.
Governor?
What's the question?
I knew you were going to ask that. I'm ready for you. So what are some initiatives that are being put in place to help develop and grow a pipeline for future entrepreneurs and small business leaders in Delaware?
Great. First of all, this is going to have to be my last question.
Yeah.
I need to run. I don't know where Charlie went, but Charlie, thank you for what you do. I'm excited to The Millennium Summit, Spur Impact Summit is next week, I think. So everybody come to the summit. If you don't have your tickets already, it's probably too late. But if you talk to Charlie over there, maybe he can smuggle you in. And thank you for what you continue to do. And Allison, Nicole, thank you for doing this. I think so much of our long-term success is about workforce. If our public schools can do a better job, quite frankly, producing the entrepreneurs and innovators of tomorrow, we're going to be in really good shape. When we talk to employers, and I know when the Prosperity Partnership hears from employers looking at coming to Delaware, there are questions about tax policy and regulatory policy and land use and environment. But what they really, really care about is workforce. Companies are going to go to where the workforce is. Technology companies, sort of the bits and bytes companies, software companies, they've all, for the past couple of decades, ended up starting, growing in Silicon Valley, because that's where the workforce is for that industry. We need to make sure in our prized industries, in the chemical industries, the financial technology industry, even some of the logistics industries, that we have the prized workforce here in tourism, in agriculture. We need to make sure that we're developing in our K-12 system, in our higher education system, in our workforce development programs like skills training centers. We're developing the welders and the different people that actually can build stuff. Because when we do that, people are going to want to be here. So that's really where our investments are focused, where they're headed. And we think it's going to build not just sort of a headline for today and tomorrow for this company or that company, but long-term sustainable growth that will be intergenerational.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Governor.
Thanks.
And I'm going to I want to follow on that question and ask Jeff this question. When you were talking about the workforce development programs, I'm assuming these are also partially retention programs. We want to get people to come here. We want to build the pipeline, and we want them to stay here. Can you talk about some of the specifics of those programs? Are we talking about education? Are we talking about money? Are we talking about quality of life issues? What are the things that are within those programs?
Sure. And I would encourage everybody to go look at BioConnect DE's program. They're on the website, or they have a website, I should say, and it's a fantastic idea, well executed, and successful as of Tuesday, as I mentioned. As I understand it, the program started with the assumption that workforce development would be a critical component to not just attracting bio manufacturing to the state and associated industries, but also keeping them. So early on, that organization reached out to those businesses and the management level, if you will, of those businesses, and posed the question, what are the core skill sets that you look for in an applicant? And what does somebody need to know to be able to come into Merck and put their resume on the table and have a really good chance at high quality, gainful employment? And so through back and forth dialogues, as an example, they identified things like clean room operation, data logging, all the various skill sets that you need to work in a laboratory environment. And through those conversations, developed a program and a curriculum. Through some state funding, we're able to defer tuition costs for the foreseeable future for that program. Got the word out, picked about 25 applicants out of, I'm not sure what the initial application numbers were, but interest was high. And after 6 weeks or so, they were provided an accreditation, a certificate that they'll be able to take and use as a supplement to their resume. So we feel that program at scale, which it will be, puts us in a really good position relative to our peers. The governor mentioned the Research Triangle in North Carolina. There's Boston as well. This is a very competitive space, but if we have thoughtful program development that takes kind of the shape that I just described, we'll be able to be competitive with those folks.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, and thank you for that. So the next question has to deal with small business leaders, entrepreneurs who are new to this world. You know, they're new to Delaware, or maybe they've been in Delaware since they were yay high, but they don't know how to really connect with the people they need to connect with. So what advice or resources or what should a new entrepreneur or an established entrepreneur do to help connect to the people they need to connect with, to help them grow and get the name out that they exist and that they're here, or that they need help? Where should they start?
So they definitely can start with the Delaware Division of Small Business, connecting with their regional business manager. And if you're in a specific county, like for Newcastle County, you connect with Jeff, of course, right? And then for Kent County, we have the Kent Economic Partnership with Linda Parkowski and Zach Pravola. I work really closely with them. Sometimes people think that I actually work with them, but them connecting with those individuals will help them navigate that county, whether it's looking for getting permit supports or looking for a specific space at no cost to them at all. Mm-hmm. And also the Delaware Prosperity Partnership, Noah, plugging them again, getting connected with Delaware Prosperity Partnership to navigate throughout the state as well is really important.
Do you guys recommend that people have FaceTime? Some people have a difficult time kind of, I call it kissing babies in a room, but politicking within an environment, how will someone go about letting people know their name, so to speak? If they're in this room full of people that they don't know, how do they start? Should they even be in the room, or should they just call and make the connection?
Well, they definitely can call or come into our office, reach out to us, whether it's through social media, whatever fits better for you. You know, you have email, phone, walk into the office. If you are to social media, you can follow us on social media and pose your question, but definitely getting connected that way. And then there's different chambers, various chambers throughout the state. So you find a chamber, they're having an event, a mixer. You have to become social a little bit, even if it's uncomfortable, to get your business out there. And again, that's no cost to you whatsoever to go out and network.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you talk a little bit about the role of public-private partnerships and how you all work with different organizations? I'm thinking about the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation, other philanthropic agencies, private businesses. How do you interface with them to help elevate entrepreneurship and small businesses? And maybe we should start with Jim and I.
So it really depends on where that business is. So let's say we have Women Business Center. So they have a lot of different courses you can take, whether you're looking for marketing. They have so many different. I was just on that website the other day looking at different classes they have. So just going on there and looking at those classes. So when a business come in, we initially do an intake for our business owners. And so depending on that need, we assess that business needs. And some things we can help on a division level, and some we may have to refer you to our resource partners, and that way they can help you from there.
Stacia, did you want to follow on that?
Oh, yes. So the Main Street programs, they're mostly some are nonprofits, some are embedded within like the city or the town, but they are boots on the ground every day dealing with the business owners, right? The farmers markets, they do the volunteer. I know it's probably a little over 30,000 for this past fiscal year of volunteer hours that they've done throughout the state, right? So being connected with them as business managers, and even me as the Main Street statewide coordinator, making sure that they have the supports they need. It's not always just about funding. It may be about sharing a flyer, or a sponsorship will help every now and then as well. But they are dealing with the small businesses each and every day, trying to make sure those vacancies are filled throughout their Main Street as well.
Jeff, you want to add?
Yeah, not a ton to add there. We've mentioned a couple of times, the Delaware effect here, in that you're generally one phone call away from what you need, depending on the issue. And just as an example, I sit on the board of Downtown Visions here in the city of Wilmington. They have a robust program set, I would say, that helps small business owners, think, for example, on Market Street, attract business and get the word out, promote themselves and things like that. And so part of this is having faith where if you reach out to me or Anastasia or Gemini, we're going to know, where to put you. There's not really a wrong action that you can take. The important part is just to make sure that you take the action. So I want to encourage everybody to not get so hung up on, did I hit a home run here on my first try? Keep at it and have faith that you'll get to where you need to be.
And I had a question. I want to circle back to priority industries. I am a big proponent of lining up with where the state and the counties want to go when it comes to launching and scaling your business, because I feel like your business aligns with the resources in the state, you're more likely to get connected and have what you need. We mentioned a lot about biotech, technology, fintech, and things of that nature. But then we also mentioned how the arts and entertainment and tourism are some of the top priorities in the state. And so I see we have Dr. Watkins in the house, who does a lot of the arts industries, but I didn't necessarily hear of any direct and deliberate initiatives or incubators or systems in place to help artists kind of navigate how to be leaders and entrepreneurs and grow and scale their business. Is there something that I missed, or is there something that you guys could add in on what deliberate efforts are helping the creatives in the state of Delaware have a business?
So when it comes to the creatives, as a former person in the creative space myself, I utilize resources such as the Small Business Development Center, SCORE. I happen to be on the board for the Delaware Art Alliance. So I do see the need and I see the importance of the creative economy. And Neil Kirschling, another plug out to him, the creative economy plan and the resources and data that has been provided in that is going to be very instrumental for anybody that's applying in the arts industry, for whether it's the EDGE grant or for a small business loan. That data is going to be very helpful in what you're proposing to a lender or even an investor. The same way that a restaurant is going to handle their business is the same way, well, as far as like putting together a plan, is the same way that the artist industry should put together their plan as well. And it really takes that one-on-one that Jim and I mentioned earlier to assess like where they are and what they need and exactly who they're trying to attract to make sure that the business is successful.
That's interesting. So almost what I'm hearing is, and I know that Mr. Berman talked about your financial forecasting and knowing your numbers and what your runway is and so forth. But now I'm also hearing have the data to kind of back up the efficacy of your plan.
Yes.
So if you are a creative and you're an artist, maybe take the data from another artist and what they did maybe in another smaller comparative city and see how they helped grow jobs, have a strong economic impact. So what you're basically saying is make sure you do a lot of homework. Are you guys looking for that data, and how deep into the weeds do they need to go with it?
You don't have to dig too deep, but you need to be able to provide to show sustainability. Like, how is this going to create jobs? Like the governor mentioned, how are you going to make money from your company? How are you paying your rent? Like, we want to look at all of those things. If you have rent to pay, you might own the building. Shout out to you if you do that. But we want to look at everything. And the biggest thing is we want to set you up for success. So there may be some tough questions that we might ask. And it's not to challenge you, but it's to make sure that you look at these things that we've heard judges ask. Jeff and I have been judges for pitch competitions. Jim and I, you've seen heard the different questions that come in from people that are panelists. Noah was a judge for the EDGE grant. And you have access to these individuals. And we know exactly what to look for. So take advantage of that.
Did anyone want to add in?
No, she did a great job. And also in our division, we're located right in the tourism and division are in the same building under the same umbrella. So with that, we have those resources in tourism also. We have that connection that we can connect whether you're looking to do something in arts, entertainment, we have that, we can close that gap for you because we are directly connected to the division of tourism office.
And the Division of Arts is also under Department of State as well. And there's currently a grant out. If you haven't seen it, the fellowship grant, make sure you check that out. It closes this week. I'm just plugging everything.
Yeah, you're getting lots of plugs in. It's like a commercial.
Yes.
Great. I'm curious about what you all see as the opportunities when you look around the country at different economic development programs. What do you want to bring home? What do you want to bring back to Delaware? Do you have a favorite program, something you saw in Colorado or Texas and thought, wow, that's a great idea. Let's bring that to the first state.
Well, Jim and I probably already knows what to say when I go to Main Street conferences. I just love what I see there, whether it's, the historical culture, whether I'm in Birmingham or if I was in Boston or in Denver, just seeing how they support the communities. That's what I try to bring back here. And I started handling that role about 2 years ago, and we went from 5 active communities to now 13. So I think it's working. It's happening, and we're meeting that miss and middle that Director Bell always talks about, because those are your mom and pop shops that are downtown, right? Those are the businesses that are smaller. They're not the fintech and the biotech, which are very important as well. Let me say that. But those are the smaller businesses that are downtown. They don't have 50 or 60 employees.
And what is that? Of course, I've heard of Main Street USA, but what are the things that encompasses? Do they get help with business planning, workforce development? What are the parts?
So there's a 4-point approach that Main Street looks at. That's design, economic vitality, organization, and promotion. So they're promoting the businesses downtown, promoting the events that are happening downtown, promoting the museums, the libraries. Smyrna Duck Creek Library, I don't know if you've been yet, but they have a brand new state-of-the-art library that's in their downtown area. The Opera House, the Queen is downtown Wilmington. So those different initiatives that are taking place, they may receive some federal funding. They also receive some state funding, whether it's through historic preservation or any supports that the Main Street community is able to provide as well. Was I in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
You actually have 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
What about you, Jeff? Do you have a favorite idea out there, something that's at the top of your wish list?
There's a couple of projects that you get excited about, and some are more developed than others. And I think I'll give you an example. I think that Newcastle County, Delaware, more broadly speaking, has a tremendous opportunity, geographically speaking, to develop our sports tourism efforts here. We hear a lot about parents, regional tournaments, staying at bad hotels and not having a lot of programming to stick around for after the game or the tournament. That's an opportunity for us. We talked a little bit about how close we are to everything. What are we doing to make sure that we capitalize on that, capture and capitalize that opportunity? And there's some interesting partnerships that could manifest themselves out there. University of Delaware could be a tremendous partner in that regard. And then you always try and look out there for little sparks or evidence of this, being a real opportunity. And when I look at Kirkwood Soccer or DE Turf, what's happening at the field house in Wilmington, there's something there, and that's something to get excited about. In terms of quickly, I think Newcastle County's getting to a point where vertical redevelopment starting to make more and more sense for us, particularly around our commercial corridors. And so there's opportunities there to look at zoning, to look at regulatory factors that might incentivize walkability and density in areas that have generally built out and not up in the past. So those are really exciting, early stage things to look forward to.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So businesses that are in the opportunity zones or downtown development districts, they do get extra points on the EDGE grant as well.
Yeah.
That's a good takeaway.
What about you, Gemini? Have you seen a program somewhere in the country that you think, gosh, I wish we could bring that here?
I have not, but I also want to say I love how Delaware is open to exploring that option. That's how EDGE came about, because under Governor Carney's administration, that's when EDGE became who it is now. Governor Carney was in his travel and seen that idea and then brought it to Delaware. And look how many businesses we have served so far, how many businesses startup that we have just brought to life. And it's exciting to see that Delaware is open to new ideas.
I want to bring it back to small business support and infrastructure. So we talked a lot about kind of this idea of for-profit companies, generating revenue and so forth. we didn't really tap into nonprofits organizations. I hate to refer to them as nonprofits because they have to actually make a profit to be sustainable. But what type of programs, initiatives, something are put in place to help support nonprofits, especially since a lot of the federal funding may be a challenge in the next couple months or year?
So when you look at nonprofits, the Main Street programs, I'm going to keep mentioning that. Some of them are set up as 501c6s, which is a nonprofit. And the Chamber of Commerce, they're all nonprofits. And we are members of Chambers of Commerce as a division. And we also do sponsorships and support the businesses that are members of those chambers. Now, if Nicole and Allison, if you were to reach our office and say, I'm looking to set up a nonprofit, we would like to connect you with the proper organization that helps structure a nonprofit, because we want to set you up for success just as well as we would for a for-profit business.
So I love being under the leadership of Director CJ Bell, because that was our latest conversation that we had is with nonprofits, and I had a strong interest in that. So that's something new under my role that I will be taking on. It's not saying, hey, I have money to throw at nonprofits. It's going to be like, hey, there is an advocate here at the Division of Small Business that can help with nonprofits and guide you and point you into the right directions and resources.
Thank you.
And if I can add, when we started Spotlight is a nonprofit, and I believe we were actually almost eligible for the EDGE grant. So I think that EDGE accepts applications from nonprofits. Is that correct?
No,
No?
we do not.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I thought that there was something else. And are there other programs that nonprofits are eligible to apply for?
So nonprofits can apply for the State Small Business Credit Initiative.
That's the one. Okay.
Yes. So the community development fund and institutes that are a part of it, such as Del One, Community Bank, they focus on Sussex County,
Yes.
and True Access Capital. They do
Okay.
support there. Yes.
That's-
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't get to talk much about the Small Business Credit Initiative, but that is federal funding that our office received. How many of you heard about the race to 14 million that Director Bell talked about? Okay, so y'all heard about it already, but we are close to getting rid of that 14 million. So if you are looking to apply for a small loan, please reach out to our office, or you can see me at the end today and I'll schedule some time to meet with you and talk about that.
Well, I think we are going to wrap it up. So thank you all so much to our panelists, and wanted to see if you have any final closing thoughts that you wanted to share, something we failed to ask you that you'd like to say.
I'll start. Thank you everyone for coming out. Again, my name is Gemini Cornish. I'm the Sussex County Regional Business Manager. And I just want everyone to know that Division of Small Business is here to support you. Our new slogan is, it starts with us. And that means whether you're in the idea phase, whether you're looking to grow, whether you're looking to start, whether you're looking to access funding, we're here. So don't be afraid to call. We have myself, Gemini, Anastasia, and Joe. So there's 3 of us here to help you. So don't be afraid to call. We're here to help you guys.
Thank you, Charlie, for having us, the opportunity. Thank you to the panel, taking it easy on us. We're really excited to be here. There's a lot of energy in our department. I see Helen has joined us. Helen, the small business coordinator from my office. Her and I are really putting a lot of time and effort into thoughtful program development. What's going to, not just like, what can we do that sounds like maybe we should do it, or, sounds cool. Where do we actually need to make an impact at the county level? So we're open to ideas. We want to hear from constituents. We want to hear from partners. We want to hear from concerned citizens. So our door's always open. Our website just got a little bit of a refresh. So all of our contact information is there if you need it. Thank you.
Anastasia Jackson again. I want to say thank you to Charlie, thank you Nicole and Allison for not being too hard on us today. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to connecting with everyone and providing supports in any way that I possibly can.
Well, thanks again to all of you for your leadership in helping to build up economic development in the state of Delaware, and especially starting from the grassroots up. And want to ask you all if you would please push out resources through social media so that the folks in the room and watching us virtually can figure out where to find you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank our panelists for joining us today. Thank our moderators for keeping the conversation lively. I know there's a lot of people watching in the audience and certainly online, and a lot of watched replay. Thank you again for coming. And that's it. We'll see you next week at the MillSummit. So thanks, everybody.